Okay, good morning, Chevra and Chevrot. Today I'm dedicating this teaching to my very, very dear, funny, deep friend, Cantor Michaelis Formis, who I learned with on this Parsha going back 27 years or more, like starting 1992. And last month, I spent some time on just a couple of verses, a couple of words, and I titled this after a project that he has, which is to play with words, which of course he's an expert at doing. And of course we know the saying, to no avail. But this one is to no avail. So may his thoughtfulness and humor continue to inspire many for many years and in good health. So every year I look for a new dimension in my birth Parsha, Chayei Sara, which is this week's Parsha. And I generally go to my girl Rivka, the mother of thousands of myriads, as the text says. Just like Abraham is also the people who come after him are going to be more than you can count the stars in the sky. Same kind of words. So the story of Rivka and Yitzchak's meeting just fascinated me, and it continues to fascinate me. And so I've gone to a deeper place with it, and I have been rewarded. Sometimes revelation is in plain sight, directly in the text. So Chayei Sara is read during this quiet, introspective, holiday-less, other than my birthday, month of Cheshvan, a time to integrate the holiday-filled month of Tishrei. The high holidays are a time of receiving new, invigorating insights on how to be in the world. While that energy is stimulating, we can't stay in a high state. We need to spend some quiet downtime to process the personal vision of who we are to be in the new year. And so it is with Yitzchak. When we last encountered him, he experienced the Akedah. And then he went to Gan Eden. And there's a whole thing in the Zohar about that. In Chayei Sara, we find him meditating in the field, lyrically written in Hebrew, Lasuach Basadeh. Rivka and the Camels sounds like a rock group. Well, her willingness to give water, not only the servant, but to fetch water for 10 camels, which is the 10 sefirot, from her Kad, which is 24, the Gematria is 24, which represents the sacred texts of the Tanakh. So she's literally invigorating the 10 godly spheres with Torah. So the camels drink a tremendous amount of water, just as we need to be sustained with Torah on our long journey through life. This is a display of great kindness on every level. It's no wonder that the Hebrew word for camel, gamal, is the root of the word gemilut chasidim, acts of loving kindness. The Torah goes beyond this description to reinforce her great virtue by having this action be the prayer Eliezer begins to intone as he sets out to find a suitable bride for his master's son. The Torah tells us that before he even finished, she was already fulfilling his prayer. There are 3 instances in the Torah where speech is directly followed by actualization. When Moses speaks during the Korach incident, the earth opens up, and at the inauguration of the Holy Temple, when Solomon finished speaking, a fire comes down to take the offering. Now, this is after they're done speaking. So in those instances, the action occurs after speech, And only with the servant does the action come before. And this leads to the Talmudic saying, said Rabbi Acha, the talk of the servants of the fathers is more desirable than the Torah scholarship of the children. For Eliezer's story, which takes up 2 or 3 pages in the Torah, is twice recounted, while many principles of Torah law are conveyed with a single word or letter. And that's the Rashi, Midrash Rabbah. So I'm skipping over those exchanges about the arrangement for Rivka to leave her dysfunctional family, to go with a servant, to wed an unknown stranger. This right away tells you something about Rivka. First, she just goes to him and takes care of his needs with great compassion and generosity. And then she has this knowing to just go. She doesn't know who she's going to marry. She just goes. And we're going to see later where this is shown. So this is the proof text also that women may not be married off without their consent. And it's also the proof text that women have a right to make aliyah. And the fact that it worked out illustrates that sometimes one's knowing can just come in an instant. And of course, this is tricky to navigate because sometimes it's just dangerous impulsivity, as many of us have experienced. My main focus comes with verse chapter 24, 64 through 66. So this is what it is in English, and we can play with the translation. Rivka looked up and saw Yitzchak. She lowered herself from the camel and said to the servant, "Who's that man walking in the field toward us?" The servant said, "He's my master." She took the veil and covered herself. So Rivka looked, Vatisa. Michael suggested that this is the big picture looking, taking in the whole picture. Think of a John Ford film with the large territory and the cowboys come to the high point and they're looking out. So from a distance, atop her camel, she sees a strange man meditating out in the field. Firstly, it's a really strange place for anyone to be, let alone a man surrounded by angels. Remember, Yitzchak had been through a life-changing experience, so he was really glowing. Plus, he was upside down because in Gan Eden, that's how they walk, upside down. And you'll see how this makes sense very soon. The focus is on Rivka looking out at him with her eyes, and then Batipol Me'al Hagamal. So it's 2 prepositions. So it's translated as either she fell or she bent from on the camel. And that's where I went, huh? Why the double preposition? So Michael's response was to consider the other doublings. Avraham, right? God was in this place and I did not know. This doubling indicates 2 levels of experiencing the world, that of desert consciousness, just the mundane reality, and that of spiritual understanding. We toggle back and forth from mundane reality or the pshat, the words on the paper, as written to the deeper metaphorical meaning that can transport us. Translators often say Batipol is that Rivka fell off her camel, while others say it means that she leaned over. I'm with the latter, and that choice led me to the deeper meaning of the veiling herself. On a practical level, if she fell, there'd be something written to follow up. I mean, if you fall off a camel, you're going to be hurt. Camel is no donkey. And if she was hurt, she wouldn't have been able to walk into Yitzchak's tent. So the first person she sees is alone, out in a field from a bit of a distance. Seems to me Rivka would want to see him at a different eye level, requiring her to bend over. Also, if he's upside down, wouldn't you think she'd want to go, huh? Like, who is that guy? And then the next line is, who's that man walking in the field toward us? Like Moses, who turned aside in order to see the spirituality of the burning bush, Rivka leans down on her camel to see the intensity of who this man is, especially if he's walking upside down with angels flitting around him. So she's obviously impressed and curious. And once she discovers that this is her intended husband, she takes the veil and covers herself. That is very active and deliberate. Now, there's two levels to look at it, or maybe more levels. On one level, you could say that in accordance with her virtuous nature, she's also modest, wanting to cover herself up. We all know what riding for miles on desert can do to our hair. Oy. Modesty or snut shows one's appreciation of one's holiness. We dress the Torah because it's holy. We respect and revere it, and we want to protect it. And religious women dress modestly for that reason. On another level, she's making a boundary between herself and imagining what it will be like to partner with such an intense, enigmatic man. She needs to make a boundary between herself and her husband. She needs to protect her agency. This makes sense when we consider that she came from a disreputable family. She already was making boundaries. This self-awareness is evident in the future when she ensures the blessing goes to Yaakov. I related to this on a very personal level. When we encounter a powerful person with a strong aura, we run the risk of losing our sense of self. I've seen this Stockholm syndrome in various forms. Cults, of course, but even just ideology. People get swept up in a movement and relinquish their independent thought process. It's essential to protect our sense of agency, to check into who we truly are and what we believe. The veil can also represent being wrapped up in the loving embrace of Shekhinah. This is how we come to know a veil. Debarti.